Our planet, a tapestry of diverse landscapes and climates, is experiencing unprecedented change. From scorching heat waves to devastating floods, extreme weather events are becoming increasingly common, impacting both natural ecosystems and human societies. These are not isolated incidents, but stark reminders of a planet grappling with the consequences of human activity. In recent years, we have witnessed the unimaginable snow blanketing the typically arid deserts of Saudi Arabia and the iconic ice cap of Japan's Mount Fuji melting at an alarming rate. As temperatures rise and weather patterns shift, we are confronted with the urgent need to understand and address the driving forces behind these changes. The scientific community has long warned of the consequences of unchecked greenhouse gas emissions. The evidence is irrefutable. Our planet is warming, and the impacts are being felt across the globe, from the highest peaks to the most remote deserts. Mount Fuji, Japan's highest and most revered mountain, has long been a symbol of the country's natural beauty and cultural heritage. However, this majestic landmark is facing an unprecedented threat. Its glaciers are melting at an alarming rate, a clear indication of the warming climate. Scientists have been monitoring the mountain's snow cover for decades, and the data paint a sobering picture. The once permanent ice cap is shrinking, with some years seeing a complete disappearance of snow during the summer months. The primary culprit behind this melting is rising temperatures. Mount Fuji's glaciers play a crucial role in the region's water cycle, feeding rivers and streams that support local ecosystems and human populations. As temperatures rise and snow cover decreases, plant and animal species adapted to the cold, harsh conditions are struggling to survive. The loss of biodiversity on Mount Fuji is not only an ecological tragedy, but also a cultural loss for Japan. In a phenomenon that seems to defy logic, the arid deserts of Saudi Arabia have witnessed a series of unusual snowfalls in recent years. Images of snow-covered camels and sand dunes blanketed in white have circulated widely on social media, capturing the world's attention. While snowfall in this region is not entirely unheard of, the frequency and intensity of these events have increased, prompting questions about the role of climate change. Meteorologists attribute these unusual weather patterns to a complex interplay of atmospheric conditions, including a southward dip in the polar jet stream and an influx of cold, moist air from the north. The polar jet stream, a band of strong winds that circles the northern hemisphere, typically acts as a barrier, keeping cold Arctic air contained. However, climate change is disrupting these atmospheric patterns. This reduced temperature gradient weakens the polar jet stream, making it more prone to meandering and allowing cold air to penetrate further south than usual. While the sight of snow in the desert may seem like a novelty, it is a stark reminder of the far-reaching impacts of climate change. These unusual weather patterns can have significant consequences for the region's fragile ecosystems and human populations. The unusual weather events observed on Mount Fuji and in Saudi Arabia are not isolated incidents, but rather symptoms of a much larger and more concerning trend: global climate change. The Earth's climate is a complex and interconnected system, and even seemingly small changes in temperature and precipitation patterns can have cascading effects across the globe. The scientific evidence overwhelmingly points to human activity, particularly the burning of fossil fuels, as the primary driver of this warming trend. As we continue to pump greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, we are altering the planet's energy balance, leading to a rise in global temperatures and a host of associated impacts. Rising sea levels threaten coastal communities and infrastructure, while more frequent and intense heat waves pose significant risks to human health, particularly for vulnerable populations. The impacts of climate change are not limited to the natural world. They are also having profound social and economic consequences. In an era defined by instant communication and global interconnectedness, it is no surprise that the unusual weather events on Mount Fuji and in Saudi Arabia have captured the world's attention. Images and videos of these events have spread rapidly on social media, sparking conversations about climate change and its far-reaching impacts. For many, these events serve as a stark reminder of the urgency of addressing this global challenge. The public is increasingly aware of the realities of climate change, and there is a growing demand for action from governments and corporations to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and transition to a more sustainable future. The scientific community has provided overwhelming evidence of the anthropogenic nature of climate change, and the public is taking notice. There is a growing movement of individuals, organizations, and governments committed to taking action on climate change. The time for action is now, and the choices we make today will determine the fate of our planet and future generations.